Action. Swamp. Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Working Class Gamer Podcast. I am your host, Director Warren, aka Stalin Warren. And I know it's been a minute. People have been like, yo, where the pod at? What's going on? We want to know. You know, you're recording, you're good, yada, yada, yada. Yes, I'm good. Yes, I'm recording. I've been playing games. Hence the title of today's episode. I've been playing my game. I've been enjoying life. As you guys know, per the last episode, I've started a new job. And honestly, everything about life so far is way better. And I have not even been paid yet because it's not even about money. It's just the feeling that comes with being in a space that you know you can grow in. No diss to where I was before. It's just, it is what it is. It's the facts of life. We're growing. And most of the people in the audience of this podcast are around my age. So you know what it's like to be a gamer. You know what it's like to have passions. You know what it's like to have things that you want to do. And you understand the value of time. I cannot stress that enough. The value of time. Time is honestly, this is going to sound stupid and obvious, but time is more valuable than money. Okay. And so that's just where I'm at in life. I have way more time now. I haven't been put on that like rolling schedule yet. So like the big thing that we're going to be talking about today. I got a couple of points I want to hit before we get into Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I got that title on the 13th of March. And I wanted to get a significant chunk of the game played before I talked about it on camera. Obviously I couldn't stream it. I got it early, but I wasn't a part of the press who got it early. So I couldn't do any streams, do any videos before the 20th. And then like by the time the 20th came and I saw the type of content that was coming out, I was like, okay, I want to do my podcast first before I do any streaming, before I upload any gameplay videos, because I want to take a firm stance on this particular game before we do anything else. Okay. So that's why it's March 31st when you're getting this. It's 11 days from release when you're getting this episode, just because I have been pouring myself into that game. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The other reason it has taken me a minute is because my favorite artist dropped an album. All right. If you know, you know. You can tell by the title. If you can't tell, I'm talking about Playboi Carti's I Am Music. We've been waiting on this album for 5 years. Okay. We finally got the album. I've been listening to it. I've been enjoying it. And it's just like, in combination of life going the way it's going and the music sounding the way it sounds and the game playing the way it plays, I ain't in no rush. Y'all don't be rushing me also. The algorithm is what rushes us. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're a content creator, it's the algorithm that's rushing you. You guys never rush me, but I just don't care to be moving on somebody's time other than my own. And honestly, listening to this album has kind of just, what's the word I'm looking for? Reinforce that notion within me that like I am on my own time. I'm not in no rush. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all can get my opinions and my talking points when you get them. Again, once I get on that rolling schedule where I have way more days in the week to just sit down, record, organize, yada, 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 stream, whatever, you're going to see the channel become what I've always wanted it to be. Okay. But right now we are still on Stalin's time. Okay. We're going to always be on Stalin's time, but especially now, I don't record unless I feel like it. If I don't feel like it, I'm not going to record. And I don't understand why there's so much like rhetoric out there that's like, oh, real discipline is, just because you don't feel like it, you should still do it. If I get on this mic when I don't feel like doing it, I'm going to put out a bad episode, and I don't want to do that. Okay? This is not my 9 to 5. This is just a passion. Hence the title of the podcast. Okay. So do you in all that you do. For real. Do you. Okay. That's literally one of my talking points just for today's intro is do you for real. Okay. I cannot stress that enough. Go at your own pace. Don't be in no hurry. You're not on nobody else's time, and you dang sure ain't on the algorithm's time. You are on your time. You know what works for you. You know your spirit speaks to you day in and day out. No matter what you do, you hear the voice that comes from the inside of your chest that directs you in everything that you do. And that's literally the only thing you should be listening to. Other people, you know what I mean? They have more value in your life than others, and you'll heed their word from time to time. But do you, for real? Okay. Now, obviously, we've been waiting on this particular episode since the start of this podcast. I've been waiting on this game for a long time. We are talking Assassin's Creed Shadows today, but not without getting into a little bit of news first, okay? If I had a soundboard, we'd be doing a round of applause. You know why? Because Game Informer is back, ladies and gentlemen. Game Informer magazine has officially returned. Okay? Shout out to the men and women that make up that wonderful magazine that I have been reading myself since I was in the 4th grade. I'm now 28 years old. We're talking decades of journalism, basically, that was almost gone. I don't know if you guys remember when when GameStop just shut down Game Informer in August, okay? You couldn't go to their website and read any past reviews or watch any videos. Their YouTube was still active. They weren't making new videos, but you could still go to that YouTube channel and watch. But as far as like, it was kind of tough to find like, you know, reviews and stuff like that. And I think like some public and private entities found ways to archive past articles and, you know, keep those web addresses alive. But the main Game Informer website was just OV. There was nothing for you to read. There was nothing for you to do. So I'm going to read a quick article to you guys. This comes from Emma Roth at TheVerge.com. Game Informer is back, and so is its entire staff. On Tuesday, editor-in-chief Matt Miller announced that Gunzilla Games has acquired the rights to the gaming magazine, helping to bring the site and its archives back online. GameStop, which previously owned Game Informer, shut down the beloved magazine last August and laid off its entire staff after a more than 30-year run. The team teased a comeback last week and has already published a series of new reviews for titles released during the magazine's hiatus, along with a belated list of the best games of 2024. I have actually not read that list yet. I would be curious to see. I'm going to go ahead and just open it real quick and see. Anyway, its new owners, Gunzilla Games, is a game developer based in Europe that's currently working on a battle royale title called Off the Grid. Miller says the magazine will continue operating as an independent editorial outlet under a new entity called Game Informer Inc. Quote, our intent is to continue to focus on highlighting the coolest games, celebrating the history and legacy of the gaming industry, and shining a spotlight on the creators and players who are charting its future. In addition to bringing back its website, Game Informer plans to resurrect its print magazine too, with new membership and subscription benefits. Though Game Informer currently isn't offering a subscription just yet, you can sign up for an account on its website to receive updates as well as gain access to the magazine's archive. Game Informer will continue updating its site with news, reviews, previews, features, event coverage, and more starting today. And this was written March 25th. And actually, the next article that I use for my next news point comes from Game Informer. So shout out to them. I'm really glad they're back. The way that Game Informer just like, hold on. Oh, I guess it's all the way up. But no, it's not. I guess it is. The way that Game Informer just ended so abruptly was like super sad, honestly. Like I felt a way about it. I know the people who worked for Game Informer felt a way about it. Some of those people landed. You can find some of those people at like MinMax on YouTube, where they do like documentaries and just like they do a very specific type of video on certain games and developers and stuff like that in the industry that you kind of can't find at like an IGN or GameSpot or whatever. But you know, I mean, we're talking hundreds of people on the staff that just were out of a job immediately. And pretty much because of, you know, the business practices of GameStop causing them to have to shut down. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. At a certain point, I will talk about what it was like being a store manager for GameStop. Now that I don't work there anymore, I can talk about the fact that the entire time this podcast was on, up until today's episode, I worked at GameStop. And we're not going to talk about it today, but the culture is shifting, for lack of just so we don't have to get too deep into the weeds of it. The culture is shifting at GameStop. It's for people who work there, it can get very scary, right? Especially when you read news like Game Informer magazine is just abruptly shut down. That shutdown was crazy. It just happened. There was no explanation. It just happened. We're closing its doors. We're shutting it down just to save some cash. And then you get into the amount of stores that GameStop is closing, and them announcing again this year that they're closing even more stores and, going to invest our profits into Bitcoin or whatever. Like, it's just a mess. And eventually, as I'm sure that's not the last time. Like, I read a few days ago about the Bitcoin stuff and them closing more stores on CNBC, I want to say it was. I'm sure that's not the last time we're going to see them in the news media. So there will be time to talk about GameStop, but not today. But I am glad to hear about Game Informer landing. Gunzilla Games being the primary investor, if you will, is very interesting to me. I don't know if any of you guys have played Off the Grid. I have it downloaded onto my PS5, but I have not played it. Like, I've opened the app and watched like the opening movie thing or whatever, and it has a really cool aesthetic. I just haven't played it. I don't know who's playing Off the Grid either. I've seen like one person on TikTok streaming it one night randomly. I was scrolling and that was it. So I don't know who's playing it. I don't know if it's. I hope they have a plan though. I hope we don't have to deal with like Game Informer getting closed again because Off the Grid is not a successful game, and I don't think that'll be the case. But I just want to put that hope and prayer out there. You know what I'm saying? So God bless the folks at Game Informer. Really glad to hear that they are back. Print media is only dead if you allow it to be, right? And Game Informer magazine is one of the most important magazines in American media, in my opinion. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a gamer, but like Game Informer magazine helped me learn how to just like just understand the difference between opinion and fact as a young child. You know what I mean? Like reading reviews, previews, interviews, and all that kind of thing. Like, that's what I read in my free time in the 4th grade. I used to pick up Game Informer magazines and Car and Driver and Road and Track magazines. That was my thing, games and cars. So it's just good that they're back, that like, especially that they're reinvesting in print media, that there will be a new generation of children, very young Gen Zers, like young, I mean the ones that were born in like 07, 08, 09, as well as like, what is Gen Z? It's all the way up to like something like that. I think it's up to like 2005. So probably Gen Alpha is really what I'm talking about. Gen Alpha, those kids, it's really dope that they'll be able to interact with physical media in part, especially when it has to do with games. So I'm very excited for them to come back. I will be setting up an account and I'll be setting up a subscription once they offer it again. And I'm so glad it's not tied to a GameStop Pro membership. I'm glad that's over with. So glad that's over with. So kudos and congratulations to them. My next piece that I want to get into, I don't know how extensive today's episode is going to get because I just really wanted to talk about one thing. I still wanted to have some news to talk about. And I think this news in particular is relevant to today's game that we're talking about. And I am talking about the news that Ubisoft has created a new subsidiary for its biggest franchises with Tencent as minority owner. Now, as you guys know, 2 or 3 episodes ago, we talked about how Tencent is now being classified as a Chinese military company. So I don't know what this means for Ubisoft games shipping in America. I think they have enough, I think they have enough sharks on their legal team and enough money to continue to make it happen, to continue to ship games here. I hope that's not going to be a roadblock for them, but it is very interesting. I told you guys, 2025 is going to be probably the most interesting year in gaming yet. So just keep your eyes peeled for how this is going, how Tencent being a minority owner of Ubisoft is going to impact them. So I'm going to very quickly read, it's a short article from Marcus Stewart, written on March 27th. This comes to us from Game Informer. Shout out to y'all. Ubisoft announced Tencent has invested £1.16 billion or $1.25 billion for a minority stake in a newly created subsidiary that will spearhead the development of its 3 biggest franchises going forward: Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six. According to a press release, this new subsidiary, which does not yet have a name, will, quote, focus on building game ecosystems designed to become truly evergreen and multi-platform. Backed by greater investment and boosted creative capacities, it will drive further increases in quality of narrative solo experiences, expand multiplayer offerings with increased frequency of content release, introduce free-to-play touchpoints, and integrate more social features, end quote. The subsidiary includes the teams responsible for developing the Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry franchises, located in Montreal, Quebec, Sherbrooke, Saguenay, Barcelona, and Sofia. The new subsidiary will now manage these series' back catalogs, games currently in development, and any future titles. It will be run by a dedicated leadership team supervised by the board of directors. To paraphrase, these three franchises have been moved into a separate internal organization that will oversee them going forward. Additionally, the subsidiary will also be granted, according to the press release, quote, a worldwide exclusive irrevocable perpetual license in respect of the intellectual property and similar proprietary rights owned or licensable by Ubisoft in relation to Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry in exchange for a royalty. The transaction is projected to be completed by the end of the year. What that sounds like is they're going to get a little piece. Tencent is going to get a piece of the pie of whatever Ubisoft earns on their games that they release going forward. Ubisoft co-founder and CEO Yves Guillemot says in a statement, by creating this subsidiary, quote, we are crystallizing the value of our assets, strengthening our balance sheet, and creating the best conditions for these franchises' long-term growth and success. Tencent President Martin Lau adds, quote, we are excited to extend our long-standing partnership with Ubisoft through this investment, which reflects our continued confidence in Ubisoft's creative vision and exceptional talent to drive sustained success in the industry. We see the immense potential for these franchises to evolve into long-term evergreen game platforms and create engaging new experiences for gamers, end quote. And to end the article, this move serves as an effort to stabilize Ubisoft following a challenging 2024 that saw the company endure a series of high-profile flops and studio closures. It shuttered a Leamington, Ontario support studio in January, resulting in nearly 200 layoffs. Its live service multiplayer shooter X Defiant is shutting down in June after launching less than a year ago, which resulted in the closure of offices in San Francisco and Osaka last December. The team behind the critically acclaimed Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was disbanded after the game reportedly underperformed in sales. Star Wars Outlaws, which launched in a less than stellar state last August, was also considered a sales disappointment that caused Ubisoft's share price to take a big hit after its arrival. The situation appeared so dire that Ubisoft and Tencent had reportedly considered taking the company private last fall to help right the ship. Ubisoft's latest title, Assassin's Creed Shadows, was released last week to generally positive critical reception. There's no reported sales figures as of yet, but Ubisoft announced today the title has garnered over 3 million players since release, generating the second highest launch day sales revenue behind only Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Okay, so Ubisoft saved, maybe. We'll see how this goes. I said this before, I'm on record as saying that I would not be upset if Tencent, took the company private. I wasn't going to be mad at them going private, but I'm glad that they're still a publicly traded company and Tencent is now a minority owner. Now, we could do conspiracy stuff and we're not going to, but it is very interesting the foothold that Tencent is creating in Western gaming. And again, I go back to Black Myth Wukong being like the first indicator that they are very interested in the Western market. They didn't just pour money into that game so it would do well in China. They poured money into that game so it would also do well here. And Sony also played ball and pouring money into that game. That's why it is still, to this day, only on PlayStation 5. I'm glad that they know what their big three are. They just recently announced, it was like in the last month or so, the overhaul that Rainbow Six is going to have for the current gen and whatever generation is about to come behind this one. Far Cry 6 was not good, in my opinion. Far Cry 5 is great, though. I've been playing that off and on. And so I know that they can do great things with Far Cry. And obviously, Assassin's Creed, to me right now, is the best it's ever been. And so I do think it's important. That, somebody step in and, give Ubisoft a little bit of a safety net so they can continue to pour into those big three franchises. My question is, what does this mean for the Division, bro? What does this mean for Division 3? Because the Division 2 to this day is still one of the best shared world shooter experiences I have ever played. I often think about just re-downloading it and just getting back into it. I do that very often when I don't have stuff to play. I know they have an expansion coming up that I think takes us to Boston or Brooklyn. It's Boston or Brooklyn, one or the other. But And so we'll see how that turns out. But I pray they don't leave not Tom Clancy, but I pray they don't leave The Division by the wayside. The Division is a successful title for them. There are many fans of the Division, excuse me, including yours truly. The Division 2 is still one of the best shooters out right now. You're hard pressed to find a shooter like that, like a military aesthetic, shared world, find buddies to play with and go do missions, story-based missions. I mean, I can't think of anything else like The Division. It's Destiny, but on Earth in current times, right? And I like that a lot. I like everything about The Division 2. It's a 9 out of 10 game for me personally. The sound, the graphics, the guns, the gear, the abilities that you have, the classes, all that kind of stuff, the in-game content. It has one of the best in-games I have ever experienced. I don't do a lot of in-game stuff. I'm not a big in-game guy. And The Division 2 in particular has currently some of the best in-game support you'll find in any sort of live service video game. I put it up there with Fortnite as far as how that game has been supported since it released, I think in 2019 it came out, 2019. And just the way that they've supported that game for the last 6 years has been incredible. And it has a very, very, very active community. So please, guys, don't give up on The Division. I don't play Rainbow Six. I might play it when the overhaul comes out and just check it out. But The Division is, and I don't even want to talk about what might happen to Ghost Recon. I pray that game and that franchise isn't on the chopping block as well, because Ghost Recon, Wildlands, and Breakpoint are two of the best open world military experiences that you can play, military shooter experiences that you can play. Okay, I mean it's Grand Theft Auto but military. You know what I mean? And Breakpoint to me took some of the mechanics and design systems, or took some of the mechanics, the design, and the systems established in Wildlands, and to me made them better. I did not play that game at launch. I know it had a very divisive, the opinions were very divided on Breakpoint when that game launched, but by the time I played it, they had really figured it out. Just customizing the tactical nature of your gunfights, customizing the realism as far as your injuries, the way they handle lighting and day versus night and how that impacts, approaching bases and all that kind of stuff. And also keeping the same formula from Wildlands, going from base to base to get gun parts, guns themselves, vehicles, all that kind of stuff. Like it's just a great game. So I really hope they don't give up on Ghost Recon as a franchise, because I think they have nailed it in turning it into an open world adventure shooter. And also still differentiating it from like Far Cry. You know what I mean? Like Far Cry and Ghost Recon play very differently. And I think they're both all the better for it. But I do understand if they had to pick as far as their shooter, like, because Rainbow Six is massive. Rainbow Six was never going to go anywhere. It's huge to this day. But and Assassin's Creed is huge. We're not going away with that. So as far as the shooter franchise that you're going to pick, I do understand picking Far Cry over Division and Ghost Recon if that is the case. If we are never going to see Ghost Recon and we're never going to see the Division again, I'm not mad at having Far Cry. I think Ubisoft is at their best when they create single player experiences that have multiplayer on the back end. When they go multiplayer first, as we've seen with X Defiant, it doesn't always come out the best. I mean, for every For Honor and for every, Rainbow Six, you end up with a X Defiant. You know what I mean? I think they had another one that didn't work out too well. But so yeah, they do single player, open world, immersive world experiences the best. Like besides Rockstar and besides like a CD Projekt Red, they do it the best. And what better evidence of that than Assassin's Creed Shadows? Ladies and gentlemen, Assassin's Creed Shadows is exactly what we wanted it to be. And when I say we, I mean the people who were ready for the game to come out. Not you grifters that were online, upset about Yasuke's casting, upset about Naoe's casting, upset about the fact that like random gamers who were invited to press events use their time unwisely to destroy shrines and temples. Nobody in their right mind, nobody in their sane mind, no regular person that was waiting on that game was ready to tear up temples. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about me and you. You know, the ones that were ready for this game to come out, that were excited for this game, that were hoping and praying that Ubisoft would pull it off because you love, like I do, you love the Assassin's Creed franchise. You love their immersive world approach. You love the historical fiction. You love what they do with the mythology of whatever world these games take place in. If you love everything about Assassin's Creed, you will love Shadows. I think Shadows is what Valhalla was trying to be, as far as, yeah, you know, it's still a massive open world RPG, but at the same time, you know, we remember our DNA, we remember where we come from. You know, stealth was so important. Blending in with your surroundings is important, in the crowd and yada yada. That's not in Valhalla at all. Like, you can put your hood on, but I very rarely do stealth. Like, I'll in Valhalla, like, I'll go around a little base or a fort or whatever and pick off people one by one with my bow and arrow. But like, I don't mind fighting people head on. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really stealthy so much as it's quiet. And I didn't play Mirage, even though I really want to see how they did Baghdad. I didn't play it. But what they've done in Shadows, like, really has to be commended. Okay? Like, first of all, here's the thing. The game was revealed last May. And it was revealed at probably the most volatile time in gaming history. And by that, what I mean is, people were nitpicking everything about every game getting announced. Are there black people in the game? Are there women in this game? Is there an LGBT agenda in this game? All kinds of stuff that has never been relevant until apparently the last 4 or 5 years, where now all of a sudden we care about. I ain't even gonna say we, but again, we can't talk about the discourse, the overall discourse within the gaming community without talking about, you know, some of the platforms where we talk about games, namely Twitter. You know, Twitter, its entire identity changed in the last 4 or 5 years, right? When it changed ownership. And not without getting into the weeds of all of that, I mean, people who have less than savory opinions on any sort of topic, whether it be men-women relations or politics or race, identity, things like that. Conversations under those umbrellas became very volatile when the ownership and branding of Twitter changed. And to me, gaming took one of, if not the hardest hits as far as how people converse about games that are coming out and developers and intentions within certain games and what's cool and what's not cool and what's great, what's not going to be great. And it was very interesting to watch that impact real life perception of certain games, because again, standing behind the counter at GameStop, I often encountered people who didn't know what was going on the internet and were just like, yo, I thought Assassin's Creed was going to be out in November. It's like, no, it's coming out in February. Then you got to tell them about the next delay. It's coming out in March. And like, well, what's the story? What's going on? What's it going to be about? And you tell them what's going on. Oh, that sounds cool. And then also seeing people who like would literally regurgitate tweets that they saw on the internet. Like, oh yeah, man, like the Japanese government is like thinking about banning Assassin's Creed Shadows from releasing in Japan. Where did you read that? Where'd you read? You only read that. We talked about it in one of the first episodes, green beans and blue checks. There are people who have paid to increase their visibility and increase their reach. The days of earning a blue check are long gone. You pay for that nowadays. I can get a blue check tomorrow. Right now, when I get done recording, I can get a blue check on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I wanted to earn it. I wanted to earn it as a filmmaker. I don't want to pay for it. So, it is what it is. Now people can pay for those things. And what comes with paying for a blue check is your message, your media being boosted because you pay. So if you pay and you're not using the site as a free user, you get priority. I'm not even mad at that model, but the people who took advantage of it were not people like myself who just wanted to put out a sensible, sane message. It was people like Endymion and people like Grums and people like the shorty with the red hair and no lips. That like people just be getting off the most racist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic rhetoric around certain games. And like, even though I wasn't old enough to play those games at the time, Dragon Age had an LGBT presence. Mass Effect had an LGBT presence. And it was just crazy to watch like the narrative flip in real time. And it's like, oh, Dragon Age is too woke. And it's like, well, it's by your definition, if what Dragon Age the Veilguard is woke, that entire series has always been woke. Matter of fact, BioWare has always developed woke games, right? And we're not even going to get into how people use the word woke wrong or as a racist dog whistle. But by your definition of what is woke, a lot of games, in particular RPGs, have always been woke, right? So when Shadows got revealed last May, like once it was official that Yasuke was going to be in the game, oh my god, dude. You would have thought that people just genuinely, like the same people, and it was the same people that were asking to see Hiroshima blow up in Oppenheimer. Like those same people would be like, well, why is the black guy? He wasn't even a samurai. He was on retainer. He wasn't even da 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 da. And just the amount of pressure being put on the developers of the game, it was unfortunate. Like it was like and in the release of this game, they've said we've got a legal team. We're ready to go. Like we're ready to sue anybody who harasses our developers. You know, death threats, no tolerance. R-word threats, no tolerance. Like it got that crazy. So like you're just a programmer. Like your job might have been to program the wind properly in a certain region of the game. And you would open your email and maybe be reading a death threat because you're working on the Assassin's Creed that features a black samurai. And buddy, Warner Brothers is shooting a movie right now on Yasuke. It's coming out next year, if not 2027. Like they're working on, like Yasuke exists in Japanese media. You neckbeards that haven't seen the sun since 2017, you don't know what you be trying to tell us you think you know. Like people who read and know Japanese history know that Yasuke has existed, know that he was a samurai, and know that Oda Nobunaga was fond of him. You know what I mean? And know that his story cuts off around 26, 27, 28 years old, and that we don't know what happened to him after the fall of Nobunaga's empire, basically. We don't know what happened to Yasuke. That's historical fact. And I don't want to dwell on this too long. I do want to get into the actual game, but I did my research. Okay? He was a samurai. It's not a debate. Japanese historians agree he was a samurai. It is what it is. And trying to say, oh, he was on retainer or whatever, Nobunaga gave him armor and gave him a sword. What else is there to talk about? You know what I mean? But y'all be racist, so that's just how it be. Now, me personally, I knew how it was going to be once they revealed the game. I knew this was going to be the talking points of the. I don't want to say the right because I don't really, but it do be looking like that, right? I don't want to say the far right this was going to be their talking points, but this is going to be the talking point of grifters. Let's just use that label, right? And they were going to focus on the fact that Naoe is a woman. They were going to focus on the fact that Yasuke is black and that why are we doing this? And, it should just be one male samurai, yada, 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 which is stupid. Because if you guys play Assassin's Creed, how the hell is it going to work with just a samurai? They're not stealthy individuals. You guys would have complained if they honed in on strictly samurai gameplay. It's very hard to be stealthy. I ain't gonna say it's very hard. It's difficult to be stealthy as Yasuke because that is not who he is. He is a warrior. That is why when you put Naoe in the same combat situations, it can get difficult for her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me give you guys a bit of background and bring you to where I am today with the game. Okay? I am officially 38, 39 hours into Assassin's Creed Shadows. All right. It has been very difficult to put that game down. And I am in real time trying to adjust my sleeping schedule. Having trouble doing it. And Assassin's Creed has not helped me at all. I've been getting better. Because like when Black Myth Wukong came out, I was playing that game till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Because I'm a night owl, so I would start playing at 11 o'clock and look at my watch and it'd be 4 a.m. I enjoy Shadows at all times of the day, okay? And I've been putting my time in, and I thought that like 15 to 20 hours would have been a good place to stop to start talking about the game, but I quickly found out that it's not, I wouldn't really be able to give you a honest representation of the fullness of that game. And I've scratched maybe 60%, 60, 70% of what the game has to offer, because I haven't even dealt with anything assassin wise yet. I have a mission sitting in my objective board that has to do with going to a tomb of the ancients and it is the beginning of Naoe's journey of understanding who the assassins were. And I haven't done that mission yet. So here's the thing. Okay. A lot of people were concerned about, Shadows and how Ubisoft was going to build their version of Japan. Obviously, the Ghost of Tsushima comparisons happened. And honestly, that's racist in and of itself because they take place in 2 different time periods, right? Maybe not racist, but it's just like silly to compare like, oh, well, it's got to have, because Ghost of Tsushima had this and it had that. So if Assassin's Creed doesn't have that, it's not going to work. Well, you idiots. Ghost of Tsushima took place in the 1300s, and this is in the late 1500s, early 1600s. So they exist in 2 different places in time. So you can't be expecting the same type of Japan. That's number 1. Number 2, Ghost of Tsushima's story is all about a samurai who starts to employ non-samurai tactics and ways of combat to save his homeland. That is the crux of his personal story, is you could almost say betraying the way that he was trained, betraying the samurai code. Like moving in silence is not the samurai way. Hiding in the bushes, hitting people with poison darts and it's not the way of the samurai. And that was the whole personal and spiritual conflict that Jin Sakai has in that game. It's what makes the game so compelling, because he fully embodied the ghost. He kind of transcended everything that it meant to be a samurai, and just forget all of that. I'm trying to save my people, and that's what makes that game so interesting. And I still haven't beat it yet because I've spent dozens and dozens of hours just in that open world. But today is not about Ghost of Tsushima. Okay, so here's what I want to do with Assassin's Creed Shadows. I want to talk about the world. I want to talk about the story. I want to talk about the gameplay as far as the technology and the design and how you interact with the world. And I want to talk about the combat. And so let's start with the setup. Let's start with what is going on, okay? This is, again, late 1500s, like the last 25 years of that century. Late 1500s Japan. And again, and I also, because of the story of this game and where it takes place in time, I'm very interested to see how Ghost of Yote handles what is essentially the same setup, which is Japan shifting from just one particular state in history to the next, right? You got the advent of gunpowder and stuff like that, changing the dynamic of war. And you had people like Nobunaga who were, if you weren't on his side, he was just decimating your village and forcibly bringing you into his fold to unite Japan. So you start this game from both of from Naoe and Yasuke's point of view. And what I like about it is, the thing about Assassin's Creed is they do their best to give you an authentic representation of the places that their games take place in. I think that's part of what has made their open world RPG formula since 2017 with Assassin's Creed Origins. That is part of what has made it so successful, financially, critically, whatever, is because when you're on a camel riding through Egypt, it feels very real. The NPCs doing what they do, like where they live and all that it feels very real. Same thing with Odyssey in ancient Greece. Valhalla. I actually love Valhalla. I'm part of Valhalla Hive. I like that game. Everybody hated that game when it came out. It's bloated. It's a boring mess. Bloated, boring mess. Shout out to Skill Up, I guess. I like the game. Is there a lot to do in that game? Hell yeah. But like, it's manageable. It's definitely manageable. You don't have to do everything the game offers. And I like it for that. And then Mirage came and kind of toned it down, wanted to make a smaller version of it. It was a $59.99 game, not a $69.99 game. And I think that's, that kind of is a good indicator for what type of game you're buying into. Instead of being a 60-hour story, we're a 20-hour story. Excuse me, sorry. And I didn't play, I didn't play much of Mirage because I wasn't interested. I'm not really interested in Basim as a character. Basim, whatever his name is, because he didn't intrigue me when I met him in Valhalla. So I just wasn't interested. But Shadows, like, I don't know how you could be a sane, sensible person and not say that casting you as Yasuke and Naoe is not one of the most interesting things they've ever done in the franchise. Because like Assassin's Creed Syndicate was the first one that allowed you to play as, two protagonists, right? And they were brother and sister and they had a little gang and it was very like, we're united in our cause. Shadows sets up a conflict, and the conflict that brings the two of them together is one of the most interesting things I've seen done in a game based on a historical but fictitious game. It's one of the most interesting setups I've ever seen. And again, they pay a lot of attention to the design and layout of their world. If you are in Egypt, you need to feel like you are really in Egypt. And that's part of why they came out with the Discovery Tour updates for each game that people use in their actual classrooms, right? So you could like explore ancient Egypt without having to play as Bayek. There's a whole different mode where the game took you through the historical fact that is inside of the game world and said, this is why this is here, and this is who this person was, and this is why these people did what they do in their neighborhoods or wherever they were, right? It was very interesting. And one of my favorite things about the current Assassin's Creed games is the Discovery mode. I've never used it, but I think that's really dope to put into your game because it reinforces the fact that everything you've built in this game is based on historical fact. Your story might be fictitious, right? Like we were in Assassin's Creed 2, Leonardo da Vinci was making toys for us and we were flying across the city and all that kind of stuff. And then we had to throw down with the Pope and all that. And you got the apples of Eden, I think it is, and you've got the ancient ones and all that kind of stuff. And it's, you got a bunch of fiction going on, science fiction at that. But the worlds that these games take place in have always been very accurate to their real world counterparts in history. And so Shadows is no different. No different at all. Like when you go to certain shrines and temples and castles and all that kind of stuff, and you go from region to region, it feels so unique and so distinct. And one of my favorite things to do in this game that like I don't do much of in others up until I started playing Valhalla, because Valhalla's pretty good at it too, is simply exploring the world. Like there's just nothing greater than getting on your horse and just riding around, honestly. Or like finding a point in an undiscovered part of the map, putting a marker there, setting the navigation to like guide you there, basically the guidance to take you that way, and just riding or walking towards your destination and discovering things along the way. Like Shadows does that the best. they really have recaptured the like to me they've recaptured the magic of exploration. A lot of games don't have it no more. If you're not Grand Theft Auto, if you're not The Witcher, a lot of games are not fun to explore. They're open world just for the sake of being open world, but it's not like games like Saints Row come to mind. Do I have any on my wall? All the ones that I have are actually pretty good, like Horizon. I haven't played Final Fantasy 15 yet. I know that game was open world. Oakley, come on now. Come on. I'm recording. Anyway, it's like storming outside and the dogs want to be like really close to me. Come on now. Have some respect for the mic. Anyway, you too. Get. I don't know what they think's going on today. But yeah, the exploration in this game is A+. And part of that is because of the Anvil engine and how updated it's just all the updates I've made for that engine for the current gen consoles. And we're going to get into some of the tech later, but just exploring the world and also the way they have you interact with it, I really enjoy. There is no eagle. There's no eagle no more. I like the eagle, but the eagle is a crutch, okay? Origins and Odyssey are way easier than they should be, and it's because of the eagle. All you got to do, you pull up to a fort, you ask for your eagle, and by the time you're level 15, level 20 in those particular Assassin's Creed games, your eagle can see everything. You just hover, you look around, doop, doop, doop. I've marked all the resources, I've marked all the people. I know that there's a captain over here, there's a big guy over here, a bunch of little guys over here. I know where all of them are. I know where all the treasure chests are. Okay? And, once I've scanned everything, then I get right back into it. It's kind of like in Ghost Recon, right? Where you have the drone, even though you do have to level up the range of the drone. Once you've got it leveled up, I mean, it makes the game not easy, but manageable, okay? Incredibly manageable, arguably easy. And that it just marks everything for you. And of course, in Ghost Recon, you can tune, you know what I mean? Like, if you can even mark people, if you can see them through walls, yada, yada, yada. But the regular recommended experience of that game allows you to tag everything in any given base. It's a Ubisoft design element. And I'm glad that there is no eagle in this game. And this is a very vertical game, okay? But if you want to see the world from up high, you gotta get the moving. Whether you're Naue or Yasuke, you have to find a way to find a different perspective so that you can look at the world. They got a new mechanic. It's the observe mechanic, right? And Naue and Yasuke both have it. And you hold the left trigger. Okay, you've got a reticle in the game at all times, which I really love. I don't think there are any reticles in the past 3 games. So there's a small reticle. And you just observe, okay? And both Naue and Yasuke can see any of the treasures that may be in a given area for the range that they can see, right? So you can see it, and they take it from Valhalla and they've made it a lot better, like the orange glowy thingies. And you'll when you move your cursor over it, it'll make a ding sound, like a wind chime type of noise, as you move your cursor over the different orange glowy points in any given area that you're in. And so they stay in your visibility. You know that there's treasure over here, there's treasure over here, and as you get closer to it, you can see if it's like a regular size loot box or one of them big legendary chests. You know what I'm saying? I really like that. I really like how they have you interact with the world, and I'll get in the differences of how Naue and Yasuke can see the world that they're in once we get to the game, the gameplay and combat differences between the two. But I like how you're interacting with the world from the ground. And it's only when you get on the viewpoints, which the viewpoints are still here, when you get up there that you can really see the verticality of the world and, you know what I mean, kind of see maybe your next point in your adventure that you want to go to on the horizon. You can do a 360 view and see all the mystery places and all the viewpoints that are available. But say you're trying to take on a castle. It behooves you to get to a nice rooftop, whether you're playing on expert or normal. Get to a rooftop, lay low, and just observe, hold the trigger down, observe, and look around, and just survey the land and see what's going on. It makes it just feels, it makes you feel like you are the character that you're playing as, right? Like you have to make certain decisions, because you're going to quickly find out that this isn't an easy game. It's not a hard game, but there is a rhythm. There's a rhythm in the combat. There's a rhythm in exploration. There's a rhythm in marking and tagging enemies. And you have to be deliberate and intentional when you're marking and tagging enemies and treasure chests and all that kind of stuff, right? So I love the way that they have you interact with the world. I love that we no longer have the crutch of the eagle anymore. I don't even know. I mean, are there? They could have picked a bird native to Japan for sure. Just how you got a raven in Valhalla instead of like an eagle in Origins and Odyssey. But I'm glad it might be a hawk in Odyssey. But I'm glad that there is no bird/drone type mechanic that you can use to come up on high and see everything, because it's not realistic. And not necessarily saying that I come into an Assassin's Creed game for realism, because I don't, but it does make it very gamey. And Ubisoft's bread and butter is the immersive sim aspect of the worlds that they build. It is interacting with these worlds as if they are real places. And that just further enhances the immersion of this particular title. So I love how they've designed it. I did write that you can see Ghost of Tsushima's influence on the game, but you can also see Ubisoft's own confidence in their design philosophy. Because none of you can look at me with a straight face and tell me that Ghost of Tsushima does not borrow/steal directly from some of the design philosophies of past Assassin's Creed titles. Whether it be the stealth aspect, hiding in the bushes, yada, 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 whistling to get people to come towards you, hitting them with a bow and arrow. I mean, that's Assassin's Creed. Sorry, but it is. And like, that's new age Assassin's Creed. So Ghost of Tsushima borrowed a lot from Assassin's Creed and tweaked it and made it, I don't want to say made it better, but they made it work for the type of world that they were designing. And I think, you know, the design team behind Shadows would have been foolish if they didn't at least look at how Ghost of Tsushima, you know, took the influence of Ubisoft and adapted it to what they were trying to build. And then saw, okay, that was really cool how they implemented that. That's what we can do with our Japan, but let's do it our way though. Let's take the ways that we've done in the past and enhance those. I think that's what they've done. So I don't even want to say it's necessarily that you're seeing Ghost of Tsushima's influence, but I think you're seeing the pressure that Ghost of Tsushima directly put on the Assassin's Creed franchise when it came out. I think you're seeing lessons learned from its release. Okay. The story. I'm going to take a slight pause. A little bit of nausea. Okay. That's better. The story. Everything about this game I love, but I would be lying to you if I said the story was not my favorite, was not my favorite aspect of this game. The story might be the best part of the entire game. Okay? Now, Assassin's Creed prologues are long. It is what it is. They have been long since Assassin's Creed 3 had you playing as Connor's dad for the first 6 hours of that game. Like, they have always been that way. You always got to play 5 or 6 hours before you see the actual Assassin's Creed title come up in the game. I kind of like that. Some people don't like it. So let me go ahead and be clear about the prologue and about the setup of the story. In my opinion, so far through playing this game, this is Naoe's story because it is her home country. It's her land. It's the land of her ancestors, and it's the land of whatever generations come out of her. And maybe not my Naoe, because my Naoe in my Assassin's Creed got a girlfriend. And this is before, you know what I mean, the L and LGBT was having babies. So, you know what I mean? I don't know if she's going to have any more descendants come up out of her. But this is the land of her family, the land of her people. So the story is kind of presented to you as something that is personal to her. You do meet Yasuke in the first hour of the game. You take control of him when he is Diogo, okay? And he's with the Portuguese, and the Portuguese are going to Nobunaga to do whatever it is that the Portuguese was doing. You know what I'm saying? Trying to set up a little trade and do their little Jesuit thing or whatever. But obviously, you know, as the story goes, Nobunaga just is fascinated by Yasuke. And that first interaction that you have between, and I didn't record it because I'll get to that in a second. But the first interaction that you have between Yasuke and Nobunaga, like, to me, really sets up what kind of story it's going to be for him. But this is Naoe's story. She is the assassin. She has the hidden blade on her arm. Okay. Again, like I told you guys, she just found out why, without spoiling anything, and you'll find it out pretty early in the game, like why she has this blade and who she is and who she comes from. But I have chosen to not look at that temple. I want to do that on stream. That's why I haven't done that mission yet. I've been doing other missions around it, but I'm about to do the Tomb of the Ancients mission, okay? But she is the assassin in Assassin's Creed. She is the one who, with the help of someone else, not to spoil anything, but you know there's a hideout in this game, she is the one saying, I can't remember the name they call their little organization. It's a Japanese term, but she's the one building up the creed, if you will, right? So it's not her game, but it's her story. They share the game. They're both on the cover. They're both on the cover for a reason. Okay, but she's in front of him. Oh, a little bit of something on my cover, man. She's in front of him for a reason. He's behind her for a reason, though. Okay? Ooh, I'm about to start cooking. So I just want to be clear. I feel like this is Naoe's this is Naoe's story, but this is their game, if that makes sense. That'll make more sense once you start playing. But I'm saying all of this to say you will spend the entirety of the prologue playing as Naoe. It will take you 8 to 15 hours before you get to Yasuke. And I say 8 to 15 because there's a clear story track that you see that will bring you to Yasuke and where he is. But this is an open world title and there's a lot of shit to do. So it took me literally the timer said 15 hours and some change before I got to the point where I saw Yasuke again in his armor with his sword as a samurai and before they put me in his shoes. Okay. So this is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Customizable, if that makes sense, prologue as far as like how much time it's going to take you. But it is an Assassin's Creed prologue. It took me 15 hours. 15 hours to get through the entirety of the prologue. But that's because I'm a very deliberate gamer. I'm a very intentional gamer. I chose to get better at combat. I chose to explore. Once you let me loose in an Assassin's Creed game, the first thing I'm doing is finding as many viewpoints as I can in a given area. And I have a tendency to like, okay, I look at the map. I know the story is going to take me to this region. So since they've dropped me in this region, I'm going to go ahead and just viewpoint here, viewpoint there. I'm going to stay in this little region. I'm going to let the story naturally take me throughout the entire map. But once they take me to a new region, that's just how I play the game. I hit the viewpoints so I can see all the question marks and all the things that are available for me to do. It's also how you learn the strengths and weaknesses of Naoe. Because when you do get put in the shoes of Yasuke, and we're getting to that in a second, it is a very, very, very significant difference in how the two of them play. And I thought, just through watching gameplay trailers and interviews, like, okay, I'm going to explore the world as Naoe, and then I'm going to change to Yasuke so I can do all my combat. But I got fired with Naoe. And I found weapons, and I found armor. I explored a couple of, what do they call them? They're tombs, not tombs of the ancients, but they're just little, you know how like in Origins and Valhalla, they have these little caves you can explore and there's always a good amount of treasure at the end. I was like, oh, I found me some good armor with some perks and all that kind of stuff. So I spent a lot of time with Naoe on purpose. Like my homeboy was like, when do we get to Yasuke? Because I got him a copy early as well. And I was like, well, I'm assuming if you just go to the story track, it'll get you to Yasuke. But I've been messing around. And it made it easier for me because by the time I got to my hideout, I had secured mad resources. You know what I mean? So I was able to level up certain aspects of the hideout at a certain point, all that kind of stuff. And it just like, once I got to the point where I had Naoe and Yasuke, I had a decent amount of armor, a decent amount of engravings that I could put into my armor and weapons and all that kind of stuff. So when I was going out into the world, I was strong. Once I figured out how to play the game though, and I'll get into the gameplay a little later. Now, even though I said this is Naoe's story, Yasuke's journey is personal, and it will grow in importance as we start to interact with the Portuguese/Templars. Now, I think, and there is a Templar aspect in the trailer. It's not a spoiler. We saw the Templar cross thing or whatever. We saw a Portuguese dude with a gun. And last time I was playing this game, I ventured up north towards a certain spot because that's where, nowadays, Lil Yami, her little shorty was. And so I switched to play as Yasuke to do some other stuff. And I was like, oh, there's way more Portuguese up here. The story hasn't brought me up here, not the main story. Her side story brought me up there, but the main story hasn't brought me up there. So I know, like, I haven't dealt, in 40 hours, I have not dealt with any Portuguese characters outside of the ones that brought Yasuke into the fold, okay? And there's been a couple of flashback missions with Yasuke where, he's like, he's training with who he's training with his sensei and all that kind of stuff. And like the Portuguese see him and, it kind of give him a look like, damn, bro, we lost our slave. And everybody love him out here or whatever. But I have not interacted with any Portuguese characters. I think that is very important. Now, my 40 hours is going to look different than your 40 hours because I do believe this is a 70, 80 hour game, 100%. This ain't Valhalla size in terms of story, like the main story, but it's thick as hell, okay? It's still an Assassin's Creed title. I think just in the way that they have designed the game, though, it feels way more palatable. Even with the objective boards, okay? And I'm showing you guys a lot of gameplay, which is also why it's taken so long for me to get to recording this episode, because I wanted to have a bunch of different types of gameplay to show. But the objective board in particular, there's your main objective board like you have in all the Assassin's Creed games where it's like, these are the guys in the order, you got to kill one by one, and they got their own branching missions up under them that bring you closer to finding them and assassinating them. But as you play and progress through the game, there are different sub-organizations. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but there are different sub-organizations, and that just enhances just the gameplay variety. Yes, it does boil down to fights and all that kind of stuff, but the combat is so good, I like doing it, okay? But I do believe, like Yasuke, when he meets Naoe, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but again, this is like prologue. He sees, because they about to come to blows, and he sees that she's got the hidden blade, and he recognizes that. And they don't get too deep into how he knows what that is at that time. But he'd be like, I can't kill her. She got something on her that's like, you know what I mean? It's like bigger than me and you. I can't kill her. And that like, again, the story is so freaking interesting, bro. Like, the thing about like Valhalla with the Vikings and all that kind of stuff, like he was so anti-Assassin's Order that you were just playing a Viking simulator so far, at least for me. And like, this is an Assassin's Creed game from start to finish. But what they are doing is setting up the world first for you and it's so interesting. It's very Cyberpunk 2077-ish as far as how your gameplay, like the you playing the game is what opens up the game. It opens up the depth of the lore and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know how you design it. I don't know how you code that, where like your gameplay, your basic gameplay may bring you into a story beat, that doesn't require a cutscene or anything like that, right? So it's just very interesting how it works. And that's why I believe that as we go along, again, these are more review impressions than a full review. That's why I believe that Yasuke's, his journey is personal to him. And we're going to come to see how he is relevant to the overall Assassin's timeline. And this is relevant to story before I get into gameplay. Okay. Assassin's Creed now has a launcher. So when you open Assassin's Creed Shadows, the main menu shows you the timeline as it is. The timeline that starts with Origins. So you've got Origins, and then Odyssey, and then Valhalla, and then Mirage, or it might be Mirage and then Valhalla, and then Shadows. And you can launch any of those games if you own them and have them installed from the launcher. Now, my one criticism is it is not nearly as fast as Call of Duty's launcher. It's very similar, but it's not nearly as fast. So it's not like you can open the Call of Duty app, and if you've got Modern Warfare 2, you click that and it takes you right into it. It's not that fast, okay? It's still, like I tested it, you click Origins, and it just opens Origins like you clicked on it from your game library. So it doesn't like it relaunches a new Assassin's Creed game and brings you into a totally different main menu and all that, the traditional main menu, but it's just cool how they've organized the timeline. Okay. I just want to throw that out there. So that'll be something you notice when you play the game. I wrote down Naoe versus Yasuke as far as story because even after they're brought together, they are having two very different experiences in Ubisoft's Japan. I think that's super dope. Yasuke, again, he's on a personal journey. He is very aware that he was taken from wherever he was taken from, okay, by the Portuguese and made, just forced into subservience, and now kind of has an opportunity at a second life as a samurai. The people of Japan have embraced him because he has saved lives. He has sat and talked with, people, and some people have taken a liking to him. Women have taken a liking to him because of his size and his demeanor. I don't want to say it like that, but because of his demeanor and his character, his who he is physically obviously makes him stand out. And then he opens his mouth and speaks Japanese and speaks the way he does. And it's very soft, right? It's a big grown man that speaks with a softness that the people that he interacts with really appreciate. And then again, you have Naoe, who also, it is a very personal story to her without spoiling anything. But again, this is her home country, so her motivations are different than Yasuke's. And the game does a really good job of differentiating these characters beyond their skin color, gender, and gameplay types. I know that sounds very obvious, like it's something that you should do, but I feel like in another developer's hands, maybe it doesn't go the same way. You know what I mean? Maybe they approach the characterization of these two characters completely differently than Ubisoft has. And that's part of the reason why I was so excited for Shadows, was because it was the same team that gave us Origins. And Origins, to me, makes it very easy for you to care about Bayek of Siwa because of his personal motivations to take down that order and then establish the Order of the Ancients. And I actually bought that DLC on sale. Playing Shadows made me want to go back and buy the DLCs that explains the hidden ones, where you just, you set up the order, you set up the Assassin's Order. So I'm really excited for that. So let's get into gameplay. So what I wrote in parentheses was, this is where technology and design philosophy marry. First of all, Assassin's Creed Shadows is unequivocally one of the best looking games you can buy on PS5 or Xbox Series X right now, hands down. It is a top 3, top 5 in terms of graphical fidelity multi-platform game release right now. Okay. It's just gorgeous. I don't know what else to say about it. And I know, again, going back to the point where it was very obvious that they saw their influence on Ghost of Tsushima and how they took it into a more artistic directions. Separate from mission design, because Ghost of Tsushima has very, very, very simple mission design. It is a very PS4 game. Okay. But, just what they do with the wind guiding you to your next, your next waypoint. The meditative aspects of Ghost of Tsushima, just really taking the spiritual aspects of Japanese culture and injecting it directly into your gameplay. That is what makes Ghost of Tsushima the masterpiece that it is. And so it was very obvious that to compete with that, or to quiet the detractors, Assassin's Creed Shadows was going to have to step up its the spiritual and cultural element, because for as great, and Valhalla does it the best of the last 3. Not counting Mirage, because I haven't played that one, but Valhalla does it the best as far as immersing you in the culture of the place that it's in. There's scenes where you do a lot of drinking, just when you interact with your people and just how people act and all that kind of stuff. It's a very it feels like a very stereotypical Viking experience, but I mean that in the best way, right? Origins, you weren't really doing too much as far as what an Egyptian may have done at that time, right? Which again, some of the customs that ancient Egypt had, like how they bury people and all that kind of stuff, might not have really worked for a mass market game like Origins, but Origins and Odyssey really don't immerse you in the culture beyond just the world that you're playing in. Valhalla, I think, kind of was the beginning of that. Like, okay, let's figure out a way to put the culture in the gameplay. Again, Ghost of Tsushima figured it out. Like they did it perfectly. And honestly, Shadows does the same thing. And I really like it. And they do different things. It's not the same, like it's not doing, you did haikus in Ghost of Tsushima. You know, in this one, they have a whole meditative minigame that takes you into a flashback that, like, you know, it's a piece of story and gameplay, but it's something that your character in meditating is pulling from and bringing back to her current experience, right? So that's really cool. Or both Yasuke and Naoe, sometimes they'll be moving about through the world and maybe they'll see something and they gotta pause. You'll see like certain animals doing a certain thing, or you'll see a bird doing a certain thing or whatever, and like you gotta quiet yourself and move into just the right amount of range so you can see it and then paint a representation of it. It's all very cool to me. And so the Anvil engine I wrote down shines. In an age where developers are literally moving from their proprietary engines that they have built from the ground up for whatever their games are, and I'm thinking about CD Projekt Red, right, who built The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk on their Red engine. Now we know Witcher 4 is going to be on Unreal Engine, and probably the next Cyberpunk will be on Unreal Engine. Black Myth Wukong had its own engine in the beginning of development, and then they shifted to the Unreal Engine. A lot of games nowadays are shifting to Unreal Engine 5 for better or for worse. Some titles do it better than others. Kudos to Ubisoft for just sticking with their own proprietary technology and making it the best it has ever been. There have been so many times in my 40 hours playing this game where my jaw has dropped, or where I've been like, oh wow, you know, just quietly to myself while playing the game, or just noticing in the middle of fights and playing it. It's so dynamic. And part of that is just the aesthetics. Having seasons in this game is one of the best things they could have done. I didn't really care about that aspect when they revealed that there were seasons, because I honestly thought it was going to be annoying. I don't want to be in the snow. It's actually really dope. Not only does it look gorgeous, but the way it impacts your gameplay is very cool. It rains a lot more in the spring and the summer than it does in the fall and winter. And in the winter, you know, your visibility is very, very different depending on how much it snows. I mean, there are entire weather systems. There are times you will be on your horse exploring the game and you will hear and see a thunderstorm rolling in. It will rain, it will thunder, yada, 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 and it will cease. And there will be puddles on the ground, right? It'll be overcast. I have taken so many pictures in this game, so many pictures, where some sunsets are pink and some sunsets are orange. You know what I mean? Nighttime, there are times where you can see all of the stars in the sky. Everything about the world is very deliberate. It feels very handcrafted. This is the least copy and pasty feeling Assassin's Creed yet, for sure. For sure. Once they started doing the open world games, that's the trap that you run into with open world titles, is it's very tempting to do the copy and paste. And that is an oversimplification that people like myself in games media do when we talk about game design, because it's not as easy as copying and pasting. It might be, but I don't think it is, even if you are using and reusing the same assets. But this is the most handcrafted Assassin's Creed has ever felt, okay? The weather system is super dope. You know, the wind picks up at the right time, like while you're playing and moving around. The leaves changing colors. There being way more leaves blowing in the wind during the fall versus during the spring and the summer. There being no leaves on trees at all during the winter, but sometimes a lot of the roofs and everywhere you go covered in snow. Seeing your character move through the snow, kind of akin to what they did in Wukong, where you're seeing your impact in the snow. You're seeing your footprints. You're seeing your horse and all that kind of stuff. And it's just very, very, very cool. It is very dope. And this is the most polished that the series has ever been. Like, I played the game before the day one patch came out. This is the most polished that game has ever been. I played it in day zero mode, if you will, right? And it ships in a great state. Like, it ships perfectly. And it's only going to be made better via title updates and all that kind of stuff. I was reading the other day about They still don't, they have their own temporal anti-aliasing for the PS5 Pro. They still have not implemented PSSR because they wanted to properly figure it out. And a proper PSSR implementation is coming. What they have is really dope. The anti-aliasing and the upscaling they have right now is super dope. It's particularly on the PS5 Pro. But when they put PSSR in that game, it's going to take it to the moon. Okay? And while we're on that subject, we can talk about, again, like I said, whether you're on base PS5 or PS5 Pro, you're in for just a visual treat. So I did not get my PS5 copy at the same time that I got my homeboy his Xbox Series X copy. Okay, so he actually got to play the game before me, and then he brought his Xbox over here so I could play my game and start my save. Again, shout out to the cloud and Ubisoft, because I was able to, before release, I was able to recover my save in the cloud on my PlayStation once I got my copy of the game. Okay. By the way, these copies are paid for. All right, I ain't stealing. And that's why I don't have that early footage of Yasuke meeting Nobunaga, because that happens in the first 15 minutes of the game, and I just don't have like my first like hour and a half, 2 hours recorded. But I have everything else I did for those first 15 hours recorded. And what was I speaking on? What was I talking about? I was trying to make a point. I hate when this happens. It'd be happening to my brain more and more nowadays. But yeah, I'm glad they delayed this game. I don't know what kind of state it would have came out in November. I don't know like how much work you can do in November, December, January, February, March. I don't know how much work you can do in 4.5 months, because it comes out March 20th. It went gold at the end of February. So I don't know how much work they were able to do in 4 months that brought it to this state. But the state that it's in right now, if you turn off this episode and go and buy the game right now, today, March 30th, you are in for the best playing and best looking in terms of bugs and graphical fidelity. You are in for the best playing and best looking Assassin's Creed ever made in the history of the franchise. For real. Like the last time I felt this way about how an Assassin's Creed title looked was Assassin's Creed Origins. And before that, Assassin's Creed 3. Okay? Like 3 came out like at the peak of the 360 era. And it was amazing. That game looked gorgeous. I haven't even played the remastered version. I wonder how it looks now. It was gorgeous though, back in the day on 360. Assassin's Creed Origins on Xbox One X. Oh my God, that game was crazy. Actually, I first played it on PS4 Pro, and the checkerboard 4K was pretty dope. Okay, so yeah, just really, really, really dope. This game is steeped in Japanese culture, and you will encounter all of that in your exploration. As far as how you interact with wildlife, there is no killing of wildlife. I think that is very deliberate. I think that is out of respect for Japan. I said this before in a past episode. I don't know if Japan has it set up to where if you make a game that takes place in their country, you can't kill the wildlife, but you can't kill no wildlife in Ghost of Tsushima, and you can't kill wildlife in Shadows. Not a bad thing though. There are plenty of resources around for you to build and upgrade all your stuff. The shrines, the temples, everything is so deliberate and intentional. Again, this feels the entirety of the game, and I know it's not because it's open world and you got to cut costs and all that kind of stuff, but it feels like the most handcrafted world that they have built. And it is handcrafted because it's not a bunch of like AI nonsense or whatever in the design pipeline, but it just feels like you had a team of artists, a large team of artists, putting together all of these regions and the roads that connect the temples and castles within these regions and small towns and port towns and all that kind of stuff. Like, I was concerned about like how varied the world was going to be, because the best thing I think that Assassin's Creed has done in this open world RPG era is give you visual diversity. Like even in Valhalla, which a lot of people say is visually bland, it takes place in the United Kingdom. I don't know what y'all were expecting, but like there are differences between Norway and England and Asgard, and then you got the Isle of Skye from some of the DLC, and then you've got a free DLC too. And I haven't played the Siege of Paris, so I don't know what that looks like. I have that DLC. I have the Wrath of the Druids, so I don't know if Wrath of the Druids takes you to a new place, but I know Siege of Paris does take you to a new place. But they've always done visual diversity really well. I don't know enough about Japan, right? So I was wondering, okay, well, how? Because Ghost of Tsushima, for whether y'all like it or not, looks very samey. Like everywhere you go is different. I mean, everywhere you go is the same. Like, yeah, you might have orange leaves here and red leaves here and yellow leaves over here, but it's very samey. And that's why I'm excited for Ghost of Yotei. Shadows has the same, like even with Egypt, it was the same question I had with Origins. How is Egypt going to look different? But Siwa looks different from Memphis, which looks different from Giza, which looks different from Alexandria. You know what I mean? Like they're all very visually distinct. The same thing can be said for Shadows. And the seasonal aspect of the game further enhances the diversity of all the different regions you're going to play in and all the different places you're going to be. And I think I've only been in 4 major regions of the game, and there are also sub-regions within the regions. But I have not fully explored all 4 of the regions that I've been to. Like, it's a big game, but it doesn't feel big. It feels very palatable and manageable. And I think that is a testament to how the game is designed and laid out. So yeah. And that's really all I have for gameplay, because I mean, the other aspect of gameplay that has nothing to do with the technology and has nothing to do with the graphics and has nothing to do with the layout of the world is the combat and the stealth. And I know I am repeating myself, but the combat and the stealth is the best it's ever been. Valhalla is so bland. It's so bland. First of all, there's no impact to your hits. There's a crunch. There's an audible crunch, but there's no physical crunch. And that was what had me excited about Valhalla. We're using axes. You know what I'm saying? We're beating the hell out of folks, and it just don't feel like it. It feels like you're fighting paperweights in that game. Odyssey and Origins are showing their age now. They still play really well, but they are showing their age. There's a little bit of impact. I would argue that there's more impact in Origins and Odyssey than there is in Valhalla. You will not have that complaint in Shadows whatsoever. Whether you're playing as Naue or you're playing as Yasuke, you're not going to have that complaint. And I am so glad that a true counterattack system has been brought back to the game, because there is a parry system in Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla. Yeah, there's one in Valhalla, but it's not like, especially in Valhalla, it just doesn't have no oomph to it. It doesn't feel like you created a strategic advantage. You know what I mean? Like you just bought yourself a couple of seconds. Whereas this one, you are not going to win your fights unless you figure out the counter and parry system. Okay? You're just not going to do it. In the same with Ghost of Tsushima. And I don't think it's because of that game. I think it's because of the nature of samurai combat. Okay? And like Naue uses her own katana. It's a short katana. It's not the long katana like what Yasuke has. But she also has the dang, I can't remember the name of the thing that Shorty from Kill Bill has too. And I've seen it in Ghost of Yotei. And I honestly, I know Ghost of Yotei is going to be good, but I am very curious to see which game is going to be the better of the two by the end of the year. I know it'd be very easy for y'all to be like, it's going to be Ghost of Yotei. Didn't you play Tsushima? Yes, I played 60 hours of Tsushima. But I don't know. They've just really nailed the combat in this game. Like the exploration, like they've got years of expertise with exploration, and they've done it. They've mastered it with Shadows. They've mastered the layout of the world. They've mastered the design, but they also mastered combat this time around. And it's not going to be easy for Ghost of Yotei to knock Assassin's Creed Shadows like off of the current pedestal that is sitting on. And it is a fun game to play because of the combat. First of all, the enemy variety is great. I do way more thinking in my fights in this game than I have in any other Assassin's Creed before. It's very easy to be on the offensive in Origins, especially in Odyssey. Valhalla, like it just becomes very, and I had to play Valhalla on hard. And like I was setting up my profile like on my homeboy's Xbox, and I was gonna play. He's like, bro, I don't think you want to play on expert. And I was like, nah, I just, I want the full experience. I play all my games on like hard or whatever, blah, 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 blah. I put that game on normal, bruh. It's a learning curve. You got to learn the rhythm with your deflects and your counterattacks and parries and all that kind of. You have to learn the rhythm. And it's really dope that they make you play as Naoe for the majority of the prologue. Like, because she is at a disadvantage because of her size and strength. So you really have to figure out the attack patterns of all of these enemies. And by the time you play as Yasuke, you're going to be mowing folks down. Okay? So they've really given you two different types of just character shells to put on, whether you play as Naoe or Yasuke. Naoe is a shinobi. Can she fight? Yes. If she got to deal with 4 or 5 people, though, it's going to be tough, especially in that early game where you haven't really leveled up your skill trees, where you haven't really found weapons with certain perks and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's tough. So, you know, point of advice, when you start playing this game, play it from a stealth point of view. Figure out the stealth mechanics first. I really love, and again, Ubisoft does this thing where they'll do something in one game and then they'll take that particular design element and throw it in another. And right now what I'm talking about is like the true night system that was established in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. The game is called Shadows. Okay? And you will know when you are like not visible to anybody else. You will know when you're like away from being seen and being noticed. Like, you can hide in a shadow and not be seen from a guard 25, 30 feet away, and just figure out your approach. You can go ahead and hit him with a kunai straight to the head, you know, word to Naruto, or you can get on the roof and figure out another way, or just engage him directly, whatever you want to do. But it's just super dope how many different opportunities they have created for stealth in this game. Anybody who loves Assassin's Creed should not, to me, should have no reason to complain about the stealth in this game. Anybody that is playing this game, like, and looking for good stealth, you should have no reason to complain about the fact that, like, they have really nailed it. They have given you different opportunities beyond just like hiding in a bale of hay or hiding in the bush. You can hide under the awning of a building in a castle, or in a, you know, and the castles are not just one building. A castle is an entire like complex, right? So you can make it under the awning of like, you know, whatever, because there's no lighting here and it's dark outside and buddy over there can't see you. So you can round that corner and stab him in the side. It's just your interactions with, you know, enemies in this game is way more customizable than it's been in the past. So I gotta commend them for how they have differentiated, you know, your gameplay opportunities that will happen with Yasuke versus the ones that happen with Naoe. Because again, Naoe is a shinobi and he's a samurai. It's kind of tough to sneak around as a 215-pound samurai because people can hear you, even when you're crouched. You can hide in the bush, you can unlock brutal assassinations, but if there's a dude 10 feet away and you brutally assassinate him, you're going to be heard. And next thing you know, you got to fight. Not a bad thing because I like fighting as Yasuke. But you're not going to be able to work your way through a castle silently like you could as Naoe. You can go through a whole castle as Naoe and nobody will ever know. It might take you a little bit longer to take down the samurai daisho that fill up the castle. And you have to defeat those samurai to unlock the final chest that is normally in the tallest structure in the castle. But it's still doable, right? But stealth should always be, if you're playing as Naoe, should be your first instinct. Just to bring the numbers down to a manageable amount. And then if you want to pop out and just do combat after you've got rid of the bells and whatever alert systems may be in any given area, and you want to start fighting, you can. Okay, sorry guys, I think my camera might have overheated just then, but we are almost done. But again, I said this earlier, by the time you start playing as Yasuke, you are familiar with how to handle different combat scenarios. And you will feel the difference in his strength, okay? And it's kind of tough. I thought that maybe when I got to castles, okay, let me play as Naoe, mark everything in the castle. It's possible. Let me mark everything in the castle, mark every enemy, mark every samurai, and then change into Yasuke. But you can't change to Yasuke if you're in the middle of a restricted area. So you have to leave the premises and then change into Yasuke. But you have to go deep into the castle to mark everything that's in the castle. So you might as well just keep doing it as Naoe. Or start the castle as Yasuke. He can climb buildings and all that kind of stuff, and he can, you know, look at things and observe and tag it, but Naoe has the added ability of like eagle vision, so she can quiet herself, see through walls, and the enemies are highlighted in red, and you move your reticle over them, and now they're marked. Yasuke cannot do the same. He can see treasures in the same way that she can, but he can't use eagle vision. He can only see what's in front of him, which I think is really dope. So I've taken on a castle as Yasuke. I've taken on a castle as Naoe. They have their strengths and weaknesses, and the game to me is so good because honestly, it can't really be determined who is the better one for whatever. It just depends on what mood you're in. You know what I mean? If you're in a real brutal mood and you want to like walk them down, as we say, you're going to want to play as Yasuke. But if you feel like moving along the rooftops as a shinobi and marking everything, and as you're moving through the castle, silently killing people with your kunai, going to their bodies and picking it up, and just keeping it going and just really assessing your surroundings and being able to know what enemies are over the next gate, you're going to want to play as Naoe. I have fun as both. So it's going to come down to your personal preference. Again, like I said at the beginning, I thought that, Naoe was going to be my primary explorer and I would mostly play as Yasuke. But no, I like playing as both of them. I love playing as Naoe. I love because again, her strengths are her weight. You know what I mean? It's like putting a weight reduction kit in a Dodge Challenger. She has power and moves way faster than he does, way more swiftly than he does. Like running on rooftops and then pressing the O or B button so that you can like do a cool shinobi flip off the rooftop onto the ground or to the next lower part of whatever building that you're on, or sprinting and then hitting B at the right moment to do like a cool parkour vault over a table or something. It all looks super dope. Yasuke can't do none of that. But it is super fun to explore the world on horseback as him. It is super fun to just pull up on a castle and let them boys know that you here and mow them down one by one. Either way is going to take you 15-20 minutes as either character to fully like go through the entirety of the castle. And I've only encountered one castle that I could not get to the viewpoint at the top as Yasuke because there was no hole in the roof to crawl through, or I just didn't find it. Every other castle I've been, you can take it down as Naoe or Yasuke. You can get the final treasure at the top of the building and then get onto the rooftop, get on the viewpoint and observe the world around you, right? So I just I could go on and on about this game, and now that I have this out, I can finally get back to streaming this game. I just want you guys to know Ubisoft did it, okay? They gave us the Assassin's Creed we have been asking for, the Assassin's Creed Japan that we've been asking for so long. They really pulled it off. They really nailed it. And honestly, I don't do this on this podcast or on this channel unless I just really, really, really love the game. But I could not, if you love Assassin's Creed, if you love historical fiction, if you love open world action games, action adventure games, I cannot recommend Assassin's Creed Shadows more. Because my camera is starting to overheat and all that kind of stuff, I can't. There's more I could talk about. The skill trees. I will talk about the skill trees really quick. The skill trees are super dope. Okay, number one, each Yasuke and Naoe have their own individual skill trees. But if you're leveling up, like you play a bunch as Naoe or you play a bunch as Yasuke and you earn a bunch of skill points, or they're called mastery points in the game, and you reach new levels, your other character has reached the same level and also is getting the same mastery points that you just got, but they get them individually. So if you earn 10 mastery points and spend them as Naoe, when you change to Yasuke, there will be 10 mastery points waiting on you. And their skill trees are tied to each type of weapon they have. So for instance, Naoe has a tools skill tree that has to do with her kunai, her shuriken, her whistles and all that kind of stuff. And then she has one for her short katana. She's got a skill tree for the chain thing. She's got a skill tree for... She's got a shinobi skill tree. I feel like there's another weapon that I'm missing. And then within those skill trees, you'll find different abilities that you can purchase. And those are the special ones that when you hold down the trigger and hit the corresponding face button, you do a cool, with the katana, you'll do a thing where you wind up a strong strike that you'll dash into, and it's not very realistic, but it's super dope. because you can eventually level it up to where you dash from one person to the next. Yasuke has one. He's got a skill tree tied to his long katana, tied to the kanabo, which is the big bat. It's one of my favorite weapons I've ever had in any video game ever. Then you got a skill tree for the gun, the teppo. You got a skill tree for the bow and arrow. And he's got a samurai skill tree. In the same way that, again, Naoe has a shinobi skill tree. And those are like your base attributes, you know what I mean? Your class attributes, if you will. And then everything else is kind of tied to your weapons and tools. It's just super dope because Valhalla has the most overwhelming skill tree I've ever played in any game. And I played Path of Exile too. And Valhalla's skill tree feels just superfluous. It just feels useless because it's so massive. And the where you spend your skill points, it feels like you get these incremental upgrades. Whereas because they've condensed the skill trees in Shadows and specified what they impact, and because they're not as big, because I would say there are just as many points to spend in this game, but they're spread out across like your like upgrading abilities and upgrading your weapons and upgrading your attributes as a samurai or a shinobi. So that's, you know, that's something I think that they did really well. Because again, it's all about perception. The game is just as big as Origins. Okay, the map is literally the same size as Origins. I would say it's not as big in the amount of missions as an Odyssey or Valhalla, but it's a big budget, expensive ass Assassin's Creed game. There's a lot of stuff to do. I told y'all I'm 40 hours into the game and I haven't done anything Assassins related. Not because it's not there, but because there's mad other stuff to do. So, but again, because of how they lay the game out, it feels so manageable. And like every time you discover something new, it's not this like eye-rolling moment of like, oh my God, now I got to build up another kingdom in England. Like it doesn't feel like that. It feels like, oh my gosh, there's more to discover and explore. There's more story to interact with. There's more people to interact with. Because it's been certain points I've felt like I'm blazing through the game and I'm not. There's a lot to do. The way that I'm playing it and the way that I'm exploring it, I might be opening up my region faster than the story might have me doing it, which again is why I stay within the region that the story is currently taking place. So I don't spoil things that like certain locations in Assassin's Creed are sometimes specific to a certain mission. And so I don't want to end up like, for instance, I have found a viewpoint that I had to go back to. I climbed up. It was a flaming structure. It was on fire. And I climbed it up and, I had to avoid the fire as I was climbing it up as Naoe. Definitely couldn't have done that one as Yasuke. Got to the viewpoint, got the 360 view, jumped off. And then I had to come back there because, again, like I said earlier, the objective board, you got your main one, you got your main dudes you got to find. And then you've got different smaller organizations that you can optionally take out. And one of the people on the smaller in the smaller organization was a guy, no spoiler, light spoiler, but he was just a dude that was just setting stuff on fire, and he set that viewpoint on fire. That's why it was on fire. And you had to fight him. Where they have you fight him is in the courtyard in front of it, and it just creates this really cinematic experience, and it's a side mission, right? So again, like, play this game at your own pace. Know that the story, know that the mission design is going to make sure you see the best places they've created for this game, but also at the same time, like, it's large, but it's a manageable large. And I will probably be playing this game all through the summer. I'm sure I'll roll credits on the main story and still have a lot of other stuff to do, especially since they're adding free content, yada, yada, yada. But oh my gosh, dude, they nailed it, man. They nailed it. And like they deserve our support. You know what I mean? Ubisoft deserves our support, honestly. I think it would be worse if the gaming industry was without Ubisoft than it would be better. Because gaming needs the Assassin's Creed franchise. Where else are we getting these worlds built with such meticulous detail and such historical accuracy? Like, where else are you finding a game like this? Where else are you finding a world that you can interact with on the same level of Grand Theft Auto without having to buy Grand Theft Auto? You know what I mean? There is no other franchise like Assassin's Creed. And Shadows, to me, was their statement. It was them saying, y'all, we know that the conversation around gaming has shifted, and we know that it's very easy to to, pardon my French, but very easy to shit on all the developers that are trying new things and shit on us because of decisions our executives are making. But there are passionate people building these worlds, designing these systems, and writing these stories. And I have not played an Assassin's Creed like this personally that resonated with me this deeply since I played Origins, okay? And I enjoy all of the big three, Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. I enjoy all three of them. But this is everything they have learned from the last 4 games, including Mirage. This is everything they have learned. And this is, you can see where they're trying to go into the future. There have been rumors of, they're rumors, but it's all but confirmed that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is getting a remake. And that we're possibly getting an original Assassin's Creed, like the Assassin's Creed OG game, that's getting a remake, and that should be coming out by 2027. But I think they don't want to leave the open world RPG design philosophy they established in 2017. I think they want to stay with it. I don't think Shadows is the send-off to that formula. I think this was just their statement. We can make great games. So I got to commend them for what they've done with this. I am having so much fun with it. I cannot wait to cut up this episode and upload it so I can go back to playing it, because that's all I'm going to do. And it's amazing. It's an amazing game. Right now, if I had to give it a number, it's a 8.5, 9 out of 10 for me. Like, I can't think of anything wrong. I can't think of anything that I don't like about the game. Like when I'm playing, there's not really anything I would want to change. I love all the characters. Quick note, I play in immersive mode, so I'm playing where I hear all of the native languages of every character. So, a lot of Japanese right now. I haven't really encountered much Portuguese, but like the voice acting, all of it, it's just all really good. It just, English or otherwise, like all the voice acting is really good. You really get to a place where you care about the characters you meet. Beyond, like, you're gonna care about Naoe and Yasuke within the first hour of playing the game for sure. But everybody else, and that I'm not gonna spoil, that is in the cast, that that you bring into the fold, that you bring to your hideout, like you care about them, and there are certain characters that you can build relationships with. Right now, Naoe has a girlfriend. Shout out to me. You know what I mean? And they go really well together. I don't know what my boy Yasuke is gonna do, because I think he got a couple shorties that are interested in him right now, but I just haven't been given no like relationship dialogue options yet. But it's there. Like this is it. This is their magnum opus. If this was their last game, this is the game that they wanted to end off on. And as like I said earlier with the Tencent news, it's not going to be their last game. But if they treated this like a make or break moment for them. And I think they've treated it this way since the beginning of development, not just since they revealed it to you guys and y'all started being racist and sexist. This has been their make or break title for the entire franchise. It's the most expensive one that they've made, but honestly, this is the best one that they've made. It is so good, I had to dedicate an entire episode to it, okay? And I will probably update you once I beat the game with even more of my opinion. I don't know how many episodes it's going to be before I beat it, but it's coming. He's coming! I've been listening to a lot of I Am music, so yeah. Like I hear the ad libs in my head whenever I'm like just not doing anything or not listening to it. So I'm really proud of Ubisoft. If this makes its way to anybody who had anything to do with this game, whether you were an accountant or an art guy or a QA tester or whatever, thank you for your work that you did on this game. It is wonderful. So yeah, guys, I didn't really want to talk too much news today. I just want to talk about Shadows because the game, it was important to me that the game do well. And I'm not playing the game with rose-colored glasses. I'm playing it as somebody who just enjoys Assassin's Creed, and it's just amazing. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate your support. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your opinions. I appreciate your reactions and your messages. And just like, every time like I upload one of these, I always end up having a conversation about something that I talked about in an episode. And I really appreciate that. So thank you guys so much again. Please, if you have not already, please like and subscribe. Okay. Like and subscribe. I'm not really in a place where I'm trying to like build this channel up so I can get monetization, but I've got the hours. I just don't have the subscribers. And so, any bit of support is appreciated. Even if all you can offer me is a like today, I would really appreciate it. Stay tuned. I will still be streaming this game. I'm at a place now where it'll be fun to stream, I feel like, and it won't be the same content that you could find on any other channel. So maybe later on in the week, I've got another Monday through Friday work week. So one of these afternoons, because I'll be getting off at like around 4 o'clock-ish. So one of these evenings, I might find some time to stream, but definitely this coming up weekend, I will stream this game for you guys. But yeah, if you got a PS5 or an Xbox, you owe it to yours, and you love Assassin's Creed, you owe it to yourself to play this game. And if you've never played an Assassin's Creed, I feel like this is a great one to start with. It's a great one to start with because it doesn't play like any of the other ones in the past. It has its own identity. So yeah, with that in mind and with all that said, you guys be blessed. God bless you. Stay dangerous. Stay faithful. You know what I mean? Stay diligent in all that you do. Continue to spread loving kindness throughout this world. That's what this community is built on. And again, I'll see you guys much sooner than later. All right. Y'all take care. Peace.